Shalom Aleichem. Today is the 24th day of the month of Teves. This is the yahrzeit, the anniversary day of passing of Rebbe Zalman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Hasidic way of life. I want to take a few minutes to share with you a little bit of an insight into understand who was the Alter Rebbe and the greatness of the Alter Rebbe. But I want to do this in a little bit of a different, less conventional way. I want to share with you two different pieces from the Talmud, from the Gemara, one in the Gemara in Bab Metzia, and one in the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. I want to share with you two stories that are directly interconnected, and to perhaps draw a parallel in comparison to the Alter Rebbe in understanding how and why the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneir Zalman of Liadi, was in fact extremely different than many of the sages in his time, and perhaps even in entire millennia, and maybe even in the entire history of the Jewish world. Their story that I'm going to share with you first is in page Pei Hey Amud Aleph. This is page 85 of the Gemara in Bab Metzia, and I want to read you through the words because of the rich terminology in the way in which the Talmud tells the story. I want to share with you the story and take the lesson from it. So the story goes like this: Ikle Rabbi la'asrei Rabbi Lozer b'Rabbi Shimon. Rebbe, the great Rabbi Yehuda Anosi, he traveled to where Rabbi Lozer, the son of Rabbi Shimon, this is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, lived after he passed away. So Amar Lahem, Rebbe asked the people of the city, Yesh loy bein lo'isa tzaddik, does the righteous person, the man, have a son? So Amrullah, they told him, Yesh loy ben, yes, the righteous one has a son. V'chol zoyno shenishkeres b'shnayim, and every harlot, every zoyna who's hired for two, shechartoi b'shmoina, they hire him for 8. He's a very handsome, physically handsome, very attractive individual man. Asye asmechei b'Rebbe v'ashlamei. Rebbe brought him into a private session, and he ordained him as a rabbi. A very strange act. Rabbi Shimon ben Isi ben Lekonya. And who did he give him? He gave him to Rabbi Shimon ben Isi ben Lekonya. That was his name of the city of Lekonya. Ochas the Imei, the brother of his mother. So he brought him to his uncle in order to teach him Torah. So he made him a rabbi. And he said, now I want you to go to your uncle, and there you're going to study Torah. Kol yoyma hava omar. And every day he would turn around, this young boy, and he would say, Likroisi ano ezil. I want to go home. I want to go back to my city. Amar lei, one day, Rabbi Shimon ben Isi said to him, his uncle, Chakim ovdu yosach. They want to make you into a great sage. V'gulsa didava parsalach, and they want to put a gold garment, a garb. They want to cape you with a garb that's like for great sages. V'gulsa didava parsalach, v'rabi korelach, and they want to call you rabbi. V'ata marta likrasi ano ezel. Yet you say you want to go home. It's unbefitting that you have such potential, such greatness, and opportunity to be such a great leader, and you want to give it up. So Amalei, the young man, turned around to his uncle and he said, Moimei azuvada. He said, you know what? I give up. Okay, if this is the case, I don't want to go home. I'll stay here and I'll continue to grow in my practice and my performance and my studying of Torah. Ki Godel, when he grew up, also Yosef b'Mesifta de Rebbe. When he grew up, he came and he sat in the study hall of Rebbe. Shmoi lekole. And one day Rebbe heard his voice, Amar, and he said, Ha kole dame lekole de Rebbe Lazar Rebbe Shimon. He said, this voice is similar to the voice of Rebbe Lazar, the son of Rebbe Shimon. So Amarle, they told him, Brehu, this is in fact his son. In other words, this young man was the son of Rabbi Elazar, who was the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's grandson. Kore alei. So they called him, and what did they call him? They gave him a special name. They entitled him Pri tzadik eitz chaim, that the fruit of a righteous person is a tree of life. So they called him like a eitz chaim, like a tree of life. V'lekeach nefoshes chacham, and he is a person who acquires souls, is a wise person. This is Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon. So they gave him a beautiful title, and they gave him tremendous respect and tremendous honor. Rabbi Shimon ben Isi ben Lekanya. Then the Talmud tells us that this is also Rabbi Shimon ben Isi ben Lekanya, a person who acquires souls is a wise one. In other words, they gave a special praise to the grandson, and they gave a special praise to the uncle. To the grandson, they called him a person whose fruit is a righteous person, is a tree of life, and a person who takes care of souls, lekech nefashos, they called him a chacham. So both the student and the teacher got rewarded, and both the student and the teacher got acclamation, and all is well. Kinoch nafshe, when Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Lazar, passed away, so amtuhi lemarta d'avua. So they decided that they wanted to bury him next to his father, like son. So you would have Rabbi Yossi, and you would have Rabbi Lazar, and you would have Shimon bar Yochai. When they got to the cave, there was a snake that was going around the cave, and they couldn't get in. So Amarle, they said to the snake, Achna, psach picha, open up your mouth, v'yikonis ben eitzel aviv, and let the son go to his father, move away. Like Paschaluhu, the serpent did not open, and he didn't let them in. And the Gemara goes on to tell us that unfortunately he wasn't able to be buried with his father Rabbi Lazar, the son of Shimon bar Yochai, but in fact he had to be buried somewhere else. People thought that the way you could explain this is because in fact Rabbi Lazar, the son of Shimon bar Yochai, is greater than Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi, as great as he became, as gold as his cape was, and as many verses you want to attribute, or the great acclamation of fame and greatness, and no matter how great his teacher was, that probably he wasn't as great as his father, Rabbi Lazar. Now I want to pause here a moment. You know, Jews have a tendency to attribute greatness. They say a certain rabbi, this rabbi, the rabbi of this city, the rabbi of that city, what a rabbi, what a great sage, the greatest. Zecher tzadik levracha, we apply all sorts of accolades and letters and words, and introductory words and terminologies. They could go start off in words and lines into paragraphs of acclamations and accolades of sages. So you can see that this already started way back in the times of the Talmud. But in fact, listen to what the Gemara says. Yotzasa baskel v'omer, a voice from heaven came out, and this was common back in Talmudic times, that there were baskels, there were voices that came from heaven. Some were heard by the sages, and some were heard internally by the soul of a person, as the Gemara talks in various places. But here, Yotzasa baskel v'amar, a voice emanated from heaven, and what did it say? Loi mipnei shezeh godol mizeh. Not because Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, is greater than his son, Elazeh haya b'tzar moro. Says the Gemara, because this person, Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, he went through tremendous discomfort, tremendous pain, tsar. He had to endure the cave during his lifetime. V'zeh lo haya b'tzar moro. But this one, Rabbi Yossi, he was a handsome guy. He became a great rabbi. Awesome. But the reality was that he didn't experience the discomfort, didn't have to endure the pain of the Morav. Now this, we could talk about this idea forever. There are different types of sages in the world. Those that were able to teach Torah and to perpetuate Jewish values, amazing leadership, etc., etc., etc. But there are those who went through Tsar Mora, and there are those that didn't go through Tsar Mora. There are those that had Mesiras Nefesh, those that went through tremendous pain and trials and tribulations, and those that didn't. I'd like to attribute this idea to the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneir Zalman of Liadi. Shneir Zalman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, was put into prison. You understand what that means? Unfortunately, the imprisonment came because of the ratting out of certain individual Jews. And the Alter Rebbe suffered in prison. as did other Chabad Rebbes throughout history, also unfortunately were imprisoned because of their spreading of Judaism and their perpetuation of Judaism, and of course of sharing the teachings of Hasidic philosophy. And so they are the equivalent in our days to what Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Elazar went through, B'tsar Mora, being in the cave, running away from the authorities, trying to protect themselves, trying to survive. The Alter Rebbe was in prison trying to survive. So in fact, when the enemies of Hasidism tried to hurt the Alter Rebbe, they in fact helped him gain a greater accolade, that now he could be considered Tsar Mora. Now he is one that is counted in someone who endured tremendous amount of discomfort in the cave, in the prison, in the St. Peter Paul's fortress. Now here, the commentaries refer to the original story of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar. What's the story of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar? What do you mean they went into the cave? And is there anything over there that in fact to keep us deeper and greater understanding into this idea of the greatness of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, in being those that had to go through Tsar Mora, and correlate it back to the Alter Rebbe? So if we open up the other Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, this is in Masechta Shabbos, also a very large tractate, and the Gemara says, and this is in page Lamed Gimel Amud Beis, the Gemara says like this: Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai had to run away from the Romans. And the Gemara says that there was a decree, and in the beginning they were having visitors, but then the Romans broke down even more difficultly. They were being even stricter about finding Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, those who they thought spoke against the government. And eventually they couldn't even have visitors and get food. And what did they do? They went into a cave to run away and to save themselves. Tsar Mora, this was the cave that they had to go into. And eventually they had to, in order to preserve their clothing, they would go into the ground every day. And only when they would pray, the commentaries say they would get out of the earth and put their clothing back on. So the Gemara says like this: Ozlu toshu b'ma'arta. Then they went and they hid themselves in a cave. Ozlu toshu b'ma'arta. Isrechish nisa, and a miracle happened. Ibori lahu charuva ve'ena demaya. A carob tree, a charuf tree, an eitz charuf, and a mayan of water appeared for them. And the Gemara says that it's a tremendous miracle. Not only was there no river there, but a carob tree usually takes 70 years to give fruit. And here it happened instantaneously. And this is the way they lived, on the water and on the carob. And the Gemara says, they would take off their clothing. They would sit covered in the sand till their necks. And every day, what would they do? They would study Torah. And when it came time to pray, they would put on their clothing and they would cover themselves and they would pray. Then they would return back into the ground. They would take off their clothing and they go back into the sand, so that their clothes should not wear out, so that it would last long. They dwelled, the two of them, for 12 years in the Myra, in the cave. Then one day, Eliyahu Hanavi came, and he stood at the opening of this cave. And he said, Man loidei libar Yochai the miskeser. Who will tell Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and the son of Yochai that the Caesar, that the Caesar had died? Ubatel gezirte, and he nullified his decree. In other words, he was coming to tell him that you can go out now. The Caesar had died, and the decree is over. Chazi inchi. And they decided they're going to try to go back to live as normal human beings. And they started to see people, the Karve Vizare, who were plowing a field, and they were sowing crops. So Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said, these people, look what they're doing. They're so busy with the materialism. They're so busy with materialistic matters that they're forsaking the world to come, and they're dedicating their life and their energy to this world. The Gemara says that they were so spiritualified, they were so spiritualized by this time in the cave, that anything they would look out would instantaneously cease to exist. It was incinerated. So another voice came from heaven, having a lot of conversations with heaven that day. And it said, what did you come out for? To destroy my world? Go back to your cave. So the two of them went back to the cave. They dwelled there, they lived there for 12 months, a full year. Very interesting thought here. The Gemara says more than 12 months you can't be in Gehenna. So even if for some reason they needed to go back, can't imagine why. At the end of the 12 months, a voice came again, and it told them, now you could leave. And in that period of time, they managed to maintain and create a balance between their immense spirituality and their physicality. Nafku, the Gemara says, and they came out of the cave, that everywhere Rabbi Elazar would destroy something because his eyesight was so spiritual, just looking at something would have its effect. Rabbi Shimon would fix it. He said, you know, my son, me and you, it has enough. Just with me and you, the world has enough people devoted to Torah study. And we could pretty much hold up the world. And here we see that Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai survived this story of the Maira of the cave. And because of this tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, and tremendous miracles of survival, even in difficult circumstances in the cave, running away, protecting themselves, they came out much, much greater and more spiritual than before. And here the Gemara goes on to tell a final leg of the story. So it started to become late Friday afternoon. So Rabbi Shimon and his son Rabbi Elazar, they saw an old man who was holding two bundles of hadassim, of myrtles, and he was running home Ramish right before Shabbos. Amarle, they said to him, Hani lamalach, why do you need these? Again, focusing on the materialism. Amarlahu, he answered them, L'chavod Shabbos, it's in honor of Shabbos. Says the Gemara, V'siski loch b'chad. So he said, so why do you need a bundle? Why do you need two? One is enough. Chad k'neged zachar, v'chad k'neged shamar. So he said, one is for zachar es Yom Shabbos, to remember the Shabbos, and one is to, of course, shamar, to protect and guard the Shabbos. Amar le librei, Reb Shimon turned around to his son, Chazekama chaviven mitzvah Yisrael. He turned around to Rabbi Elazar's son and he said, you see how precious the mitzvahs are to the Jewish people, that each component to the mitzvah is so important that they celebrate it separately. Yosef daitayu, and they were appeased. And the Gemara goes on, and in many places in the Gemaras, you'll find stories of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Elazar ben Noi. What I would like to draw, and perhaps a parallel from this story, is the story of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Elazar is the story of the Alter Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, unfortunately, said something what he was saying in the study hall. And word got to the government that he said something which he didn't even mean it that way. And he definitely was not a rebeller against the government. He lived in their land. He had to live in their land and to conduct his affairs accordingly. Elamai, he was a holy, devout Jew, and he had a way of understanding and seeing the world. Obviously, a way in which the people couldn't handle. The Alter Rebbe was the Talmud of the Maggid of Mezrich, a student of the greatest student of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic philosophy. And unfortunately, there were people in that time who misunderstood the Alter Rebbe. They didn't understand the greatness of his scholarship, the greatness of his leadership, the greatness of the novelty of his new teachings of Hasidism. Unfortunately, word got to the government that the Alter Rebbe was some sort of traitor against the government, giving money to foreign lands to try to hurt the government where the Alter Rebbe was living. And eventually what happened? Sar Mora! Alter Rebbe suffered in a cave. He was in a dungeon. He was in a jail. But what happened because of this? He came out, and as we all know the great story, that the previous Maggid of Mezrich and the Baal Shem Tov came to visit him, and they said, not only are you going to go out, you're going to be freed, but when you go out and you go free, this was like a proverbial baskoil, it's going to be even more than before. Shimon Bar Yochai came out with his son Rabbi Elazar. He revealed secrets of the Torah that he never had revealed before. This is where we have the Zohar from. Same thing with the Alter Rebbe. When the Alter Rebbe came out, the Tanya was published, the Shulchan Aruch was published, all the great texts that we have of the Alter Rebbe is because afterwards, all the great teachings of the Alter Rebbe were spread. Yosef Daitayu, what brought appeasement to Rabbi Elazar, to Rabbi Shimon Benoi, to Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar Benoi, to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Elazar, when he saw that people understood the beauty of the Torah, the beauty of the mitzvahs. It's not just enough. One myrtle branch. Zocha, I'll remember Shabbos. Shamar is Yom Shabbos. Not just to remember the negative, but to remember the positive. What is Chassidus? Chassidus is Zochar and Shamar. Chassidus is to perform Torah mitzvahs, but to perform it beautifully. Not simply. That was the survival technique. That was the chiddush, the novelty of Chassidic philosophy. That it's not just enough to do Judaism happenstance. It's not just enough to do Judaism because you have to. To do Judaism because it's beautiful. To do Judaism because you love it. Hidur mitzvah, the beauty of the mitzvah. To be impassioned with love and with reverence every day and every night, when you're up and when you're sleeping, before you're born and when you're alive and after you pass away, to bring the life and the love of Judaism into everything. And Sarmora, even if it means that sometimes you have to go through difficulties. No one wants them. Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar didn't ask to go into a cave. The Alter Rebbe didn't need to want to go into jail. But if that's what happens, to utilize it even more so for Torah and mitzvahs. And to realize, as Hasidic philosophy teaches us, that everything that happens in the world happens for a reason. Everything physical, every experience that a person goes through is what the Alter Rebbe says, happens for a reason. I want to just conclude with one final thought. One of the great teachings of the Alter Rebbe, particularly in connection to this story of going out of prison, when they came to him, the Hasidim, and they said to the Alter Rebbe, listen, Rebbe, you know what? Maybe we should go after the people who ratted on you and put you into prison. What did the Alter Rebbe say? When Yaakov was being chased by Esav, what happened? When Yitzchak was being chased by Esav, what happened? He said, that I don't have the reality to be able to, how should we say this? Have the protection to be saved in such a situation. I should say Yaakov Avinu, being chased by his brother Esav. And what ends up happening? Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ends up helping him. And in the end, he ends up having 12 children. And those children are the building blocks of the Jewish people, the 12 Shvatim. Rabbi say, what we have here is Katointi Mikol HaChasadim. The Rebbe taught us that we have to be tolerant. We have to be loving, caring, and kind in light of all the things that people may have done to us. All the things that people may have done to try to hurt us. We have to see the truth in everything. This was the Alter Rebbe, always teaching love and respect. And this is the same thing that our Rebbe, 7 generations later, teaches us. Every single Jew is important. And this is the story of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Elazar Shem ben Yochai. Who was he? He was a boy that, seems from the Gemara, wasn't so simple. They had to pull him out of somewhere. And they had to show him that he was special. Only a generation later already he was challenged. But in the end he became a rabbi. This is the story of the generation of America, the generation of after the war. What happens? We're challenged. Is this the son of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Mesiras Nefesh makes us stronger. The hardships of life make us stronger. Never to give up. In the end, always believe in your fellow Jew. Always love your fellow Jew and respect your fellow Jew. And always remember that we all come from the same grandparents. And that the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, like the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, are for all of world Jewry. God bless us that in the merit of these great sages, we should see the coming of Mashiach. We should go out of the Tsar Mora, the pit that we're in, the cave that we're in, the Golus, and see the coming of Mashiach. Meher v'yameinu.